Jotun is a very interesting project, namely because of the scale of the project. So you have this really huge environment with huge battles, and for me it's really a great opportunity to really bring out the whole orchestral palette and make things really big. So Will told me, yeah, I want to see if people are interested in playing the game, but to do that we need a solid Kickstarter campaign, and we're going to need some music. You have to have some solid themes at first if you want people to connect with your idea. So I wrote a theme suite of about 2-3 minutes. It really helped Will at first because when he heard how the game could possibly sound, I think it sort of fueled a circle where, you know, I was inspired by art, Will was inspired of how maybe things could turn out in terms of editing. It was exciting to envision how the project could turn out, how big it could be, what kind of world we could create, even before we would lay down the first bricks. So at first we discussed this idea of basing a lot of the music on traditional Norse music. You know, there would be a whole possibility of exploring some of the musical influences that are related to that mythology. Well, that's what we thought at first. But then the artwork started coming in, and it wasn't really a realistic artwork. It was more of a fantastic imagery. You know, I felt really inspired, but not by Norse mythology itself, but it really reminded me of some of the things that have inspired me in my childhood, namely Renaissance Disney, the Dawn Bluth films. Those films that were made in the 80s and the 90s have such an amazing musical universe to them, amazing theme development, amazing melodies, and I thought, maybe this would be a good opportunity to bring those souvenirs back. Kind of reminds you of that era that was a really great era both in animation and in film music.
Really, the ideas that I had that I came to Max with were the ideas of the different pacings between the exploration parts and the big epic boss fights.
There's the impossible odds. So when you're fighting some Jotuns, like it's desperation, and there has to be really big contrasts.
So that balance there is for yes, so that it's not too intense too much of the time, but also to create the difference in pacing and intensity between the exploration levels and the boss fights.
So for example, the main theme for Jotun was just me sitting and playing on the guitar and coming up with a few melodies. And then arranging that for more of an orchestral sound. So yeah, part of the score was recorded by an orchestra we commissioned in Bulgaria. And this is what it sounds like on its own, only the string section. And then I'll have some other instruments come into play. And then you have like the whole game that's, you know, you have 5 different very different worlds. For example, you have the winter level, which is really cold, blue, desolate, empty. The skies level, a level we have to put some constellations together, which is really quiet, calm, peaceful. And then you have the boss, the Storm Jotun, which is crazy, so you have some crazy strings. It's electrifying in a way. At first I thought, it's going to be hard, especially with the time constraints. They did this game pretty fast. It's going to be hard to diversify what I'm doing, be inspired to do something different for each level. And I thought that was going to be the challenge, but it wasn't, because the whole Jotun team kept coming up with this very beautiful artwork, and the ideas for the music just kept coming in. It's really great when you have someone that, you know, is not pushing a creative direction on you, but is leaving you some breathing space. That was definitely the case with Will. So I really hope that when people will be hearing the soundtrack, that we'll be hearing the story of Jotun.
Sound design and music are kind of the third dimension. If you don't have any sound, everything feels really flat. Every level has its own visual environment, so we had to do the same thing for the sound design. So every Jotun has this bank of nature sounds that we started with at the beginning, and then we enhanced them. For the lute, the Jotun, for example, it's all kinds of rocks that we have there, but all those sounds of rocks are enhanced with a lot of plugins and piling layers and layers of rocks. So it's not only a rock falling down, it's a whole mountain that has to come down. Once I begin to forge one sound, I would send them to the team, they would integrate the sound, and then I could play the game and see if everything works out. And most of the time his comments are, "There's not enough bass in it," or or "It has to get louder and louder." So I try to focus on that. And I think with Jotun it was really important to have something like not just bigger than life, but also really close to life, because it would make all those characters that are animated, that are really cartoonish, really feel more alive. While doing the game, I was actually looking forward to play that game too. And they were so enthusiastic also on their part about their project. It was then really easy to give a lot of time to do all of those sounds and to be sure that everything would be as we wanted to be. And so it was really an amazing experience. You know, from the beginning, I do my thing here, I still feel that I'm part of that team. Team Jotun!
At some point in the process, we decided we wanted to do Icelandic voiceovers. And this was quite a challenge because none of us speak Icelandic.
Will found some people to do voiceover work over Reddit, namely Silla, the voiceover for Thora. The way the process worked is that they were in a studio in Iceland with the mics plugged into the computer, and then we were on Skype with them. There was a big time difference, and we would sort of coordinate everyone's schedule so that we could be in Montreal, giving them feedback and pointers on how to do the takes, and they did an amazing job.
It gives a very unique result, and what's very cool is that Icelandic is very close to English structurally, so the emotion really comes through, even though you don't understand Icelandic.
Íkornasendiboðin, ratatoskur.